Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. This is episode 62. It is Sunday, May 20th. I'm Tony.
And I'm Dennis. And we have a guest. Once again, a pinball guest this time for a very pinball-centric episode. This is the unpredictable co-host of the Slam Tilt podcast. He is also the owner and operator of the famed Silverball Saloon. Please welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast, the Punisher of Premiere, the Saint of Stern Electronics, and the Ace of the Arkansas Auction, Mr. Bruce Nightingale. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you guys. I love your show. It's actually one of my top 5 now. So what does that tell you?
Oh, well, it tells me that you like us more than the Pinball Players Podcast.
No, I like the Pinball Players Podcast.
I mean, you guys got to be on his list at number 1. We weren't on his top 5 list.
I know. You might have to make a comment about that right now then, I guess.
No. See, here's what I do. Here's how I can hide any insecurity about any flaws in our format. I always just tell myself, we are a mixed gaming podcast because we also cover video games quite a bit. So we don't really belong on those pinball only evaluations. We shouldn't get a Twippy. We shouldn't be in the top 5 of a pinball podcast because we're mixed game. It's like Broken Token. We're mixed gaming. So
I like the mixed gaming now. I really do.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it.
I listened to the all the way through. I'm actually listening right now to your last one, and I'm listening to how much you guys like 41 hours of freaking of gaming in 1 week. Oh my God! I don't know how you guys do that.
I'm up over 90 hours now.
Oh my God!
I've added another.
Yeah, he can walk you through his secrets. I think it all just comes down to one core thing: IV drip. But
yes, I bow to you.
Got to stay hydrated.
Well, the secret is Ensures because they're liquid, so you don't have to go to the bathroom a lot, and they're filling, so you don't have to eat a lot. So you just sit there, and if you get hungry, you drink one, and you're okay for a while, and you stay away from everything else. So you can just stay at the chair.
Oh, Ensure on one end depends on the other.
Exactly.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Oh yeah, well, our minds are in the same place. Well, I really I've liked. I don't know if I got in on episode 1 of Slam Tilt, but I think I was in episode 3. I actually lived in Syracuse for a year, so when I heard you guys out in Central New York, I was like, oh yeah, I remember all that. Because I did my grad work out at Syracuse University, so.
Great area, but the weather stinks up here.
Yeah. The joke, that program was structured so you'd get through the master's program in 12 months. You actually went summer to summer, and the running joke was no one would put up with more than one Central New York winter from out of town. So they had to restructure that program so you do with the summers rather than doing it 2 years with the normal semester structure.
Yeah, you guys have better weather down there in Kansas City, definitely.
Well, in the winters, but once we get in the summer, as the late Bill Paxton would say, it's not the heat, it's the humidity, man.
I know. God.
It's brutal. Well, we're in the intro section, and I've got a link in the show notes for folks who possibly, if they've strangely never heard Slam Tilt Podcast, to go and be able to listen to your show, and also a link to your new venture, the Silverball Saloon.
Thank you.
So I didn't know if you wanted to tell us a little bit about, what's going on with that. I've got a segment here later where we're going to talk more in depth about it because you're the first person I've had on who's not just a pinball operator, but also owns the venue that deals in more than just pinball.
Oh, yes. My name's Bruce Nightingale. I am co-host of the Slam Tilt Podcast with Ron Hallett, who is actually one of my really good friends. We've been friends for 15 years. So you feel the camaraderie when you're listening to us, which is a great thing. I've been doing pinball for 35 years. I bought my first pinball machine when I was 12. I bought a KISS pinball machine, and I've owned almost 275 pinball machines in my life. And including probably about 55 to 70 arcade games, right around there.
Wow. So you're hardcore in this hobby.
Oh, yeah. The games are mostly gone now. Luckily, when I met my wife, I had a mix. And then when we bought our first townhouse, I had about 20 video games, including Discotron, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, all the video games. And my wife came down one day and she's like, I really don't like playing this. And I had only a couple pinball machines. I had a Black Knight 2000 and a Whirlwind. She says, I love playing the pinball machines. Can you get more, pinball machines and less video games? Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to me. Needless to say, last year before we opened the business, I had 38 pinball machines in my basement alone.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
yeah, and as you've noted, you've gone through quite a volume. So I always interesting in hearing, and you like have the art of the pinball deal going on, but because I've learned
from some of the best people. I really have. I've been lucky, very lucky. But it seems like you guys should know this too. Actually, hopefully, when you have a podcast and people listen, you can see people will feed you information, give you information, and when it comes to games, I put out a wish list, and 99 times out of 100, I'll get messages all throughout the week saying, "Hey, I found this," or "Hey, I see this," and "Hey, I think you should buy this." And unfortunately, I'm gullible. I'll buy anything.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. So folks, if you're thinking about starting a pinball podcast, and hey, now is the time because they seem to sort of come in waves. And
oh my God.
I remember, well, when we both started the same year,
Yes.
we all started in 2016, and that was sort of a wave then where there were a lot of podcasts sort of seemed to crop up. Some of those didn't last and some of them were very intermittent. There were only a few of us that really stick to, fairly rigid schedules.
Yes.
And everyone needs to do what works for them. But
Mhm.
yeah, I've noticed that when I start bringing up games, especially things I thought were really obscure, I'll get messages about, oh, well, it may be too far for you, but here's one I saw in an auction somewhere you might want to think about. Or, oh, I've played that game. Dennis, you're making a huge mistake. You don't want to get it.
Oh, yes.
sort of things like that. All
well,
right.
I just got one of my new grails, which was the Gamatron, which they only made, I think, 125 kits of from Pinstar. So that's another grail I just got with my buddy Zach, who joins us on the show once in a while. So now I got to find a new grail.
Yeah, Gamatron was one Tony and I actually got an opportunity to play at TPF. They had one was I don't know if it was a prototype or what, and it didn't have any art. But then there was another one that did, and that's the one that's basically a standard body Flight 2000.
Yep, it's a great game. We're almost got it fully running now, so we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I saw the video clip of the attempt to turn it on.
Yeah, that was a bad driver board and a bad connection on the CPU. We got that fixed, me and Zach. And now we just got mechanicals and lights and sockets, but it flips now. And we have sound. So the PBM board, which is the sound and CPU partially board for the game, actually is working. So yeah, it's actually a good thing. We're getting it working.
All right. Tony, what's been going on with you?
I have been doing lots of BattleTech, and that's...
Are you still under 100 hours?
Barely.
Okay.
If I hadn't been on call for some of these days and had to work early and
don't explain that.
I'd
under
probably
100
be over.
makes you sound sane still. So
I'm fairly under 100 hours. So, I did play Overwatch the other day. Okay, play's a strong term. I turned Overwatch on to buy the Mercy breast cancer skin, and then I turned Overwatch off. But that counts as playing a game that's not BattleTech, right?
I've heard they've raised almost $10 million now for
that's what I heard.
Breast Cancer Research Foundation.
And that's literally it when it comes to gaming, other than attending the tournament at Pizza West yesterday.
Oh, yeah. We had we have 2 monthly tournaments in the Kansas City area. And so one of them was, yesterday, and we lasted a while, so that was good.
I wasn't 2 and out, so I'm happy.
Anytime I'm not just 2 and out, it's lasting a while. That's the descriptor.
Nice.
So yeah, I won my money back, so that was good. And then the weekend before, in terms of my introduction, I did go to the Iron Maiden launch party out at the 403 Club in Kansas City, Kansas. Did, I guess, okay. Not great. Not as well as I've done at other launches. Actually didn't get to play Iron Maiden during the launch. They do the final rounds on it. Otherwise, you just sort of have to get assigned it. And I was. But when they configured the software, there was, the settings didn't get saved. And so it was supposed to be a 4-strike tournament, but it was put on 3-strike. And so a bunch of people had just then been dropped off, and the rest of us were ready to play. And then they realized, oh, wait, we've eliminated people, and mathematically no one should be out of the tournament yet. So they had to go in and rebuild the entire tournament and get us back to our proper strikes. And then, of course, the games got reassigned, and I lost my opportunity to play. And I got stuck on Guardians again.
And again.
Yeah.
You played Guardians a lot last time.
I did. I have a mixed record on Guardian. I mean, I know the new software is a little more balanced. I still mostly just go for Orb Multi-Ball because I actually find the shot relatively safe and it's decent points. Much better than, in my view, than going for Groot. So that's what I try, but my results are mixed. And only other thing I wanted to note is I finally got an opportunity to hear a couple more of the recent Upstart Pinball podcasts. One is called Riptide Pinball Podcast, and Ron and Bruce on Slam Tilt had an interview with the two hosts of that, Steph and Crystal.
Yep.
And so I would describe it. There's a link there'll be a link in the show notes to both of these podcasts instantly for people to be able to find them. I describe it as what you'd think of as the two host commentary format, very driven by current pinball events. Obviously, the uniqueness is, to my knowledge, is the only two host women pinball podcast out there. So
yes.
That will give that perspective. And then the other podcast is the Meltdown Pinball Podcast with a former guest host of ours, Steve Bowden. He's doing that along with Nikki De Lasagna, as she goes by.
Yes.
And I don't know what the format is. I'm going to call it experimental. The first episode was an Allentown recap with a lot of alcohol involved. And the second was, I don't know what it was. It was interesting. It was interesting. It reminded me of almost like Doctor Strange Love meets a book, which I'm sure that was a book, but I never read the book because I'm sad. But anyway, enough with these intros. We got news. And I know, you've already talked about some of these items because we're on a fortnightly schedule. So some of this stuff is older and then some of the stuff is newer. So I want to kick this off with Heighway Pinball, which we talked about at great length in the last episode. And I know, Bruce, you've got very strong feelings about Heighway and what their chances ever were going to be.
Yep.
And so anyway, Pinball News has published the liquidation documentation. And I have a link in the show notes if anyone wants to read it. It's a little over 30 pages worth of content. The summation though is simply that the company, is almost 2 million pounds in debt at the time of the filing. And the document list of assets seems to suggest that, a lot of stuff looks like was already transferred over to Pinball Brothers.
Yeah. If you read the documents correctly, they paid barely anything for those.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I noticed that, they claimed that there was documentation demonstrating that they paid enough money for some of those, it was all under like furniture, but that's really not a good description. It was more like production equipment.
And the liquidator actually in England has the power to levy fines and charges against the other company. Unfortunately, since they're based out of Sweden, I think it is, or one of the Scandinavian countries, I don't know how that goes now, since I know Britain's still in the European Union for a little bit longer. Who knows how that's going to work out? But yeah, it's very shady.
Yeah, I don't like the way this looks. I think that, to me, it appears everything is in place for Pinball Brothers to start to manufacture pins. Be that they actually build them directly, which is what I'm thinking, given what pieces of equipment they were getting, or if they were to turn to a contract manufacturer. Now, here's the part I wanted. That's all really well established. So there's not much else to say on it. What I want to talk about is, do we think that Pinball Brothers would be successful given what happened with Heighway? Is this a good idea? Will people buy these games? Let's say they make Queen. Because we saw that Deeproot said that they were in talks about getting Queen and they weren't able to get Queen from Pinball Brothers, or from Heighway, excuse me. It sounds like Pinball Brothers thus has it though, because I didn't see Queen's license in the list of assets.
No,
for Heighway.
It was not.
I didn't see any licenses in there. So Bruce, what do you think? Pinball Brothers comes out with a Queen pin. Are people going to buy it?
Possibly. It all depends. I think people have stated in the past, like, it has to be done. It has to be not teased. It has to do the anti-Jersey Jack thing and just have it. You have to have 50 made, ready to go. If they don't do that, forget about it. People are not going to give money. If they do, they're really They're even stupider than people giving money to Heighway. That was like a used car salesman giving to that guy. But I digress. But I cannot see me giving 1 cent to this company. As our number one rule is for my podcast is don't give anybody your money unless you can get the product within 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But
no,
so
it's a good rule.
It's a great rule, but I can't see them. Honestly, I love the license. If they actually did make it, I'd be very interested because I'm a big Queen fan. I'm a big 70s, 80s music guy. So for me, if it's a good game, knock it out of the park. First 2 games, honestly, Aliens I hate. I'll be the first to say it. I dislike the game. I actually like Full Throttle better.
I agree with you. I think Full Throttle shoots quite a bit better than... There's just something about that Alien layout. I just don't think it... Geometrically, it doesn't feel good to me.
Yep.
Even though I thought the code was interesting. I liked the rules behind it. But those shots, they just... I hate to say clunk fest because I feel like I say it all the time on things. But it's like they have all these ramps and stuff. But the game, it's all designed to slow that ball down. Versus Full Throttle, which outside of Demolition Man is probably the fastest playing wide body I'd ever experienced.
Totally agree.
But yeah, it's just, I couldn't really get in on Alien. Tony, what are your thoughts on Pinball Brothers and buying the Queen? I agree I think the Queen would make a great theme for a pinball.
No. I think it's probably the best music license for music pen that's out there. Based, just on the history of what has been going in the whole dad rock way of music pens anymore. But I think everything they've done was just shady as all get out. And it just seems like, I don't think we'll see it. I don't think it'll happen. I do think if it does happen, somebody's going to buy one. Somebody will pre-order something, and then they'll be like, well, I didn't know. I got screwed. It's like, really? No kidding. You did. And the thing is more likely than not, it's going to be somebody who's gotten rolled over by Heighway or Zidware or something else in the past, because it seems like that's the common. Everyone's like, I had this issue and I had this issue. It's like, why are you still pre-ordering machines?
It's a good point. I agree that in terms of would people buy them, some people will. What I'm wondering is how bad there's going to be a toxicity, I feel, that will be associated with Pinball Brothers. What I can't tell is how much based off of what's happened with Heighway.
Well, don't forget, people do forget. Look at American Pinball. With the beginning with J-Pop and everything like that. Now people have now really don't associate too much, even though he was in there in the beginning and made the Zidwares through, American Pinball. People now just like, whatever. I can live with that now, as long as I can get my Houdini.
You got a good point there, Bruce. I think in the case of, and it may pan out that way for Pinball Brothers. What I think worked to American Pinball's advantage were 2 things. One, after they realized that being associated with John Papaduke was giving them so much blowback, they disassociated from him. But they also did go ahead and give him all the things to make the number of Magic Girls that he planned to hammer together himself.
Which he needed to for his case against him. Yeah.
Yes. So in a way, people get to walk away from American Pinball and go, well, the Houdini that came out wasn't the Papaduke Houdini. They're not employing him anymore. So that concern got resolved. And then they also kind of helped. They threw granted it's just a box of lights, but they threw a bone to the Magic Girl buyers. I mean, they did put at least get all the parts together for him. So they did something for him that wouldn't have otherwise happened. So some people, I think, kind of thought of that as their quote unquote good deed. Yeah. Because they just basically donated, because they didn't use his Houdini design. So they basically just donated him all the Magic Girls.
Yeah.
So, given all that, that's why I think that ended up going that way. But time does heal all wounds in a way as well. With Pinball Brothers, I mean, so far, what I think will break their way is the fact that almost all of the blame that I'm seeing online in the realms of the Pinside and the Facebooks is that everyone's blaming Andrew Heighway for everything. So whether he is a scapegoat or he's fully responsible, and it's probably somewhere in between,
Yes.
He's definitely the one. He's definitely getting the brunt of the hate right now. So there is that. But on the flip side, Heighway Pinball, which was under the stewardship of the same investors as in Pinball Brothers for many months, has way more secured creditor liability than they do assets.
Yes.
It's almost 30,000 pounds in secure. That's like employee pay and benefits and stuff. So all these unsecured creditors, not just the pre-orderers, but the parts suppliers and everything else, they ain't getting anything.
Yeah, so how do you get parts now? You have to now find different people to get parts from,
right.
And board manufacturers and everything else.
And when you have a scenario where like a distributor like CoinTaker is out, I think 6 figures in US dollars.
Yes.
Do they deal with Pinball? Will they be like, well, I don't know. Are they going to say, yeah, well, we'll give you a chance now, even though you're the exact same people? I don't know. There are a lot of people who aren't just the buyers of the games who might make it difficult for Pinball Brothers to be able to sell based off of the fact that they're getting screwed. They ain't getting anything. They lose.
Yeah. It full on seems like they invested just to strip everything and start their own thing.
Yeah. If that's the case, and the signs to me are there. Ouch. This is a small hobby, and people with power can squeeze you.
Yeah.
And Pinball Brothers does not have power.
And they burn like every bridge.
Yep.
Well, that was fun to talk about. Let's shift to another news topic that's just as fun. Actually, it's not as fun. There's no way to spin it in any way sort of positive. John Trudeau was arrested again. This is fairly breaking news. For those that don't know who John Trudeau is, he was a pinball designer. He worked with Game Plan, Gottlieb, including was it called Milestar? Is that the iteration under Coke?
Yes.
Milestar and Premiere. Bally Williams he was with, and then most recently with Stern Pinball. Mm-hmm. For those that don't know, he was arrested a few months ago, allegedly for possessing child pornography. This new arrest is for sexual abuse of a young girl under the age of 13, at least at the start of the abuse, for a 7-year period, from 1993 until the year 2000. And so,
she was a family member.
Yes.
Which is really...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not, I don't really think there's a lot to say. I mean, from a hobby perspective, Trudeau is already out at Stern. He was out after the child pornography allegations came to light. Mm-hmm. There had been talk in the past about things going on in his history in this realm that, of course, people are now bringing back up because they're like, what were the warning signs? Why didn't anyone do anything? Why is this particular allegation coming out now? Person's probably an adult. Maybe they feel strong enough to be able to do the confrontation at this point. Who knows? Doesn't matter. There's no upside other than if he's guilty, him getting finally punished for the crime. So, but
the one thing I still noticed was weird. If you really piece the pieces together, he's living in Iowa now.
Yeah. I did see, someone ask about why was he able to legally move when he was already under a felony criminal arrest, even though he was obviously out on bail.
Yeah. I bet you he had no place to live. So a family member then sponsored him to live somewhere else. I bet you that was the case.
Interesting. Well, I mean, on the hobby side, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more of his games up for sale, just because there will be some people that they'll have that emotional association with it and they won't want to play the game. But there are enough people that don't focus on that sort of thing. I don't think you see any price movement or anything. I just think you'll see people probably sell some more of his games. There'll be more creatures on the market and they'll go for market value.
Yeah.
And they'll just shift around. However, those that can look past or don't know the designers versus those that just can't.
Yeah, there's a fair enough chunk of the people who want games who don't know anything about the designers. Sure. They don't know the background. They don't care. I mean, that's not...
Right. Well, all pins are a team effort to build. Do you disassociate from... Those are interesting emotional questions, but those are questions that only people individually can answer for themselves. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's just whatever the answer is, it just depends who you
are. Whatever feels right to you.
Yep.
If you're okay having it in your basement, okay.
Yep.
Totally agree.
All right. Another item, Deeproot pricing. This is a more fun topic. A very brief one though. So there was a Pinside post, that indicated that there was a wide price range planned from Deeproot. They kind of hinted at that back when Robert was on with us in February, actually. Mm-hmm. And so This Week in Pinball reached out, and I have a link in the show notes so people can go read exactly what they got back from Deeproot. But basically they reached out and it was confirmed that there's roughly a range of $3,500 to $50,000 per model planned. It appears they noted the numbers aren't finalized, especially on the lower end. It sounds like the upper end number was devised to appeal to one podcaster out there that wants to buy a very, very expensive pinball machine. I can tell you that the one podcaster is not me. I would never pay $50,000. I wouldn't pay $50,000 for a car, much less a pinball machine.
What if the pinball machine was a car?
I don't know. Sounds like a high tilt risk. I don't think so. I still think no.
Nudging is lane changing.
But I did think, what do we think about if there were what I'll call commercial grade, because that's generally what people are thinking of when they're talking about collecting pinball machines, commercial grade machines at around $3,500. And what would that do? Is it viable to manufacture and sell at that rate? And what would the response be, I guess, from not just home collectors, but those that are operating at this stage? I wonder if we know anyone who's operating any pins, Bruce.
Yeah. I don't see them selling it at $3,500. I don't see it even possible. You can kind of figure out what Stern's cost is, and they've been doing it for a lot longer than Deeproot.
But
with a lot more secrets and labor and infrastructure to keep the costs down. I don't see. Guess what? We have people who are now in China with home pin, using the cheapest labor and everything possible, and he can't beat that price point. I can't see that happening in the U.S.
That's an interesting point, but as Tony was pointing out, have you factored in the power of quad assembly?
Quad assembly is the way to go for everything, including building homes, building buildings, building everything, cars. Why do you think he's got the market now? He's going to be building Teslas soon.
Well, Tesla's not, so it would be nice. Sorry.
But yeah, I don't see $3,500 being feasible. If not, it's going to be maybe a box. Maybe he's doing the Zidware way of just making a box of lights, and then you get to program it. Like he said in the past, we're going to have more input into programming. Maybe he'll just give you a box of lights and you go to town.
One of the things that kind of crossed my mind at the lower price point would be, what if it were alphanumeric?
That'd be actually the displays are actually more expensive. You'd have to do it like an alphanumeric, like
right, but the coding wouldn't require any animation work, so that's where I'm wondering the savings comes in. Yeah,
well, here's even a more funny thing is when you look at the Pin 2 from Stern Pinball, which was the newer Spider-Man. In the smaller version, that was $3,700.
Yeah, but that did have the license of Spider-Man.
I know, but you had the license, but it was smaller and more compact, and it's still using the board sets. They're selling for $37,000, and it wasn't fun. It was okay. Don't get me wrong, it's okay, unless you get one of those. What's the other one they made for it? The $80,000
Transformers, right?
No, the $80,000 one.
Oh, Supreme,
yeah. Then maybe, hey, you're making a good profit margin.
Well, they kicked that up to having a DMD.
Yes, true.
See,
very true.
Got all those. It got animation costs.
Yes, exactly. You have to have two whole colors. You have to have white and red. That's expensive.
It is, and shading. So you maybe get a couple more. And
you have to put a lot of clear on that. Those reds will fade. You don't want it looking like a Bram Stoker's cabinet.
Oh. But I don't see $3,500 being reasonable. And of course, then I think the $50,000 for some podcaster out there was just a jab at him.
Oh, you don't. Oh,
oh yeah.
Poor Gold Standard.
But I love that. But I'm even on this one. This is great.
Well, we keep it relative. I try and follow the Franchi rules of how to do a podcast. So,
I'm good with that. Even though one was directed me, and I loved it still.
Okay. Next news item was WHIPPed. I love it when we get to say acronyms out. So WHIPPed, which is the new tournament that is taking place at Replay FX, which, as most pinball listeners know, is what hosts the famed Pinburg tournament. This is the Women's International Pinball Tournament. It's designed to be the largest women's tournament ever, and at least at present, the prize pool is in excess of $5,000.
Yep.
We do have a link in the show notes where Kate Martin was on episode 121B of the Pinball podcast. Jessica speaks with her, and I think Jessica helped out with this, but Kate is sort of the mastermind behind organizing this tournament. Mm-hmm. So what are our thoughts about having Whipped at Replay FX in particular?
I just laughed at the acronym.
It's awesome. Whipped. I want them to do the like rawhide crack with it.
Rawhide.
I'd actually have the whip beside the T in the logo for the shirts that they should be selling. You guys should be selling shirts, by the way.
I guarantee they will. Kate is very smart. She's very driven, which I love about Kate. I've known her for a couple years. She's a staple down in New York City, and of course, she is the one's girlfriend, which is another.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, she will get things going. I like her.
Awesome.
So I'm all for it. I do have. I've always been, and I'm going to state this. I've always been a little negative of separating groups for tournaments, aka women's tournaments and juniors tournaments and seniors tournaments. Because guess what? When I become a senior, Keith's right behind me. I'm screwed.
Right.
No one's just gonna. I'm not gonna be sitting there going, "Great, I get to lose them in 2 tournaments."
Right. I get where I'm assuming where you're coming from is what I really like about pinball, and that is outside of when you're like a little toddler with your little T-Rex arms. Essentially, there's no age or gender advantage to be had.
Yep, I get my ass gets kicked by girls and by younger guys, and guess what? That's what's gonna happen.
So if you're strong enough to move the machine, then you have in theory all the physical capabilities to compete with the best players in the world.
And there's a lot of great women players out there that are, I know by most people are underrated, but I know when I play them, forget about it. They are kicking my ass.
Yeah, we have one of our area players is Carrie Wing, who was She won the I think she was the only female winner ever of a Papa Circuit event, actually. And when I draw her name on these it's just like, well, okay, I guess I got to go home early. But what can you do with the? And we have others. We have other really great, really great players. What I do like, I like the idea though of this, and the reason why I like women's tournaments because it encourages an underrepresented demographic, in my view, to actually get out and play. And I'm hoping that if people go to these sort of things and see them, or even if they just see them, they'll go, oh, okay, it's not just for boys.
Yeah.
Or it's not just for adults. Or it's not just for young people. And then they go and they say, hey, I like this. Maybe they attend one and it makes them feel comfortable. Like, I want to play more of this stuff. And then they go to the more broad-based sort of general open to all tournaments. I'm hoping for a long tail based off of just getting more interest in a hobby, which is very male dominated.
Yeah, anything that brings more interest is a good thing.
Yes.
And anything that makes people feel more comfortable and safe is a good thing.
Yes. And with bells and chimes all over let's say the world, because we also have one now in New Zealand, that's a great thing for everyone to learn and to feel comfortable about playing pinball. And even if you're not in bells and chimes, other groups have their own variations of bells and chimes. Like up by us, we have the Buffalo Pinball. They have a women's league, which is great to see. And, Summer and Gretchen and those girls up there do a great job with it also. So it's growing, and it's growing in the positive way. Hopefully, eventually, where it does grow so much, they reintegrate back in.
Yeah, but then they'd have to give up the cool acronyms and the cool names.
That's true. I agree.
Bells and Chimes is just an amazing play, and I think I love it. I just love just the name works so well. It's just perfect.
I'd love to have one version in our area. That we have the Western Europe Pinball League, and we have 3 women in our league out of 29 players. So it's impressive, but not impressive enough in my book.
Yeah.
The one thing on Whipped that I noticed is that I thought this might, be a complication for them is Replay FX is getting a little crowded with all of these tournaments going on at the same event. Obviously, you've got that huge audience, so it's there. But I know the Intergalactic tournament, which is for charity, is running at the same time that Whipped has to run. So
it is humongous, the Intergalactic.
Yeah. So I think given how popular and the number of people, because I think a lot of people who don't get into finals for Pinburg do the Intergalactic. So I don't think it's going to really like jeopardize the Intergalactic tournaments having a solid turnout and generating a lot of charity money. I think they just had to work around what the schedules are. There's only so many days where Replay FX can go on. We would probably all wish that it was a week-long thing, but it's not.
I have a hard enough time trying to get off to go. That's why part of the reason I haven't gone at it so far is a combination of how far it is and getting that much vacation time.
That's why we had to turn down the trash talker. What's going on, Bruce? Why are you and Ron not locked in with the trash talk? Why does the committee work against you?
Because New Englanders hate New Yorkers. Enough said. Done. Done because the Yankees are better than the Red Sox. Enough said.
Okay, so all right, so it's basically the sports ball rage that's undermined all this. This is because I was going to suggest maybe what you and Ron needed to do was go on your Facebook page and just list and trash talk all the other podcasts that were listed, kind of like what Tony and I did. That's how we locked our spot up next year.
But that's how it was. Like then I'd be cheating against Christopher Franchi's rules of copying someone else. So I can't do that now.
All right. Here now, I would disagree, and here's why. One, because I did it, and I can't be a hypocrite because I would be hypocritical. So there's that. Second, Christopher Franchi's statement only applies to the actual recording of podcast, which you do in the written social media realms. That's a separate enterprise. It's a separate enterprise entirely.
I might get kicked out of Facebook.
Yeah. Well, as I told Tony, my first version of it was exceedingly profane, which, as you know, we don't do on the podcast, but off the podcast, I don't feel I have that limitation. Yeah. But this was so filthy. I decided that no. I actually did get blowback for what I wrote, even with the disclaimer, which I should never have done because the disclaimer undermines the whole point of trash talking, as people called me out on. Yeah. And it's just like, but you can't win because there are just people that see that, and maybe it was a little too close to home for some.
The worst part was that you did not keep a copy of the profane version for me
I wrote on top. I just used the same Word file. I did 3 drafts, and I was like, okay, we'll go with draft 3. So that's how I work.
There you go.
That's how I work. All right. Another really recent item that just came up a few days ago, in terms of pinball news, is Dutch pinball. Now, Bruce, you have for a very long time had a fairly negative outlook on Dutch pinball. Do you feel that I'm being fair with that statement?
Oh, totally fair. I've met the guys many times. If anything, they were more used car salesmen than Heighway was, which I didn't think was possible until you actually meet them. I remember when I was at Expo when they were handing out the flyers, newest thing coming out for when the Big Lebowski was going to be announced. And they had the girls walking around in Expo back in 2011 or 2012, handing out the flyers and everything like that. And the push and then saying they were going to be better and arrogance and just,
But it worked. Remember, John Papaduke then at that time, he needed to have a presentation literally on a rug. He thought that the rug thing was, I don't think he understood what the point of the rug was. But.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, actually 2 years ago, or a year ago, I went to, it was 2016, November. I went to the Dutch pinball tournament out there. And they had the Big Lebowski and they had people from Dutch pinball there, including, I think it was a couple of the guys, and talking to him about it. Oh yes, we're starting production. It's going full, and you can just tell. You can tell when talking to somebody a line of BS, and my BS detector was on 10 plus. It really was.
Then you were in no way surprised by this news. There was an email that was shared on Pinside. I believe you can find it on Pinball Supernova at this point as well. I don't have a link to this one, however, that indicates that ARA, which was the contract manufacturer originally being used to build the Big Lebowskis, which has built all the models that have been released. They are all ARA built.
They're the ones that are supposed to have 40 in storage.
Right. Yeah. Somewhere in that area is what's believed, about 40. and they have subpoenaed Dutch regarding their contract. And Dutch Pinball said in this announcement that they have been subpoenaed. They filed a counterclaim against the subpoena, and that because of the legal happenings that will now be moving forward, that they cannot continue to work with Zytec, which is the contract manufacturer known for making postal machines. And new Big Lebowski production is on hold until further notice. And the way the newsletters came from their newsletter was phrased was more like it's on hold until forever is the tone. So, I mean, Tony, you also, much like Bruce, have been very negative on Dutch Pinball ever since they suspended production at the end of 2016.
No, this seems like, I don't know. I mean, is there a legal requirement that makes them stop? It's possible, but man, it sounds like a really good excuse to try and cover themselves for, it's not our fault that we're not doing what we've said we were doing, even though we've not been doing. I mean, even if it's not legally required, it gives them the perfect cover to do what they have no money. There is no machines. There's nothing coming.
Yeah. I don't interpret this as that being sued meant you couldn't build things anymore. Unless there's an injunction, there's no reason to expect that.
But you would expect if there was something like that, it would have been filed and we would know about it.
And people are starting to try and dig on this, to see exactly what because the legal documents will be public. So, to try and, of course, you have to find someone who's willing to translate them. Of course, Pinside's blowing up on this. Pinside's always been a weird place for me to try and monitor Big Lebowski news, because it seems like most of the people on Pinside who list their location as being from the Netherlands defend them.
Of course. Company.
And
country
they know them. Right.
Yeah.
They know them, or, it's, hey, the Netherlands are building. I get it. But it makes it an unhelpful source sometimes. Because there are still some that are taking Dutch's side on this. Bruce, who do you think's at fault? I'm assuming you think it's Dutch and not Ara.
I think it's both. I think it's both a mismanagement of a bad contract originally stated, where the price was set for one. There was nothing, I think, as going by Dutch's and maybe even Ara saying they could increase the pricing, and Ara did it, I think, 2 to 3 times.
Yeah, at least twice.
Yeah. So if they do have a contract, this actually might be a good thing for Dutch. Because,
right. I'm assuming that's what the counterclaim's trying to argue.
Yes. And actually that could be the best thing since Ara started it. And if Dutch counterclaims and proves that, hey, they're in breach of contract, Ara, saying they were going to be able to build these machines at this cost and they cannot, they need to either A, sell us these machines at this cost at the number they've put in the contract, or B, the countersuit can say, guess what, we can go with anybody else, but you need to pay us for lost time, lost everything like this. Guess what? In Europe, whoever loses the case pays for it.
Yep.
So guess what? It might be a win for Dutch in some ways. They might have been waiting for this the whole time.
Yeah, I've considered it. I guess I lean. Well, the whole thing with the contract amounts changing, it sounds weird. It's always sounded like I don't understand what Ara had no pinball experience. I could kind of see where they were making the mistakes on it. Yeah. The red flag, I guess, for me, where I've always been more suspicious on the Dutch side of it. Well, I guess it was sort of twofold. One, and I know this is one that you've harped on a lot, Tony, was how they lied about it being a board issue for so long, rather than just saying we're having issues with the contract manufacturer. The machines are on hold while we negotiate through this. Then I guess then the second thing has been that they being Dutch, did not go to the lawsuit themselves directly from the get-go when they couldn't hammer a deal out. And if they thought, hey, we know Ara is in breach of our contract, we're going to get our legal fees paid for because we're going to win because the contract is in black and white. Let's sue them and get the games that they've built for the amount that we agreed to. And then we find another contract manufacturer. Instead, they start saying this whole song and dance about how, well, we're trying to be really good stewards of the money that we have. We don't want to spend money and time on the lawsuit. We really need to move forward and try and get everyone their games. And I'm like, but if you've been wronged, you need to break these people.
Yes.
You need to break them for the financial benefit of everyone who's a quote unquote early achiever. And that they didn't sue to me was a red flag that they didn't think they had the case.
Yeah.
Now, coupled with the fact that it's ARA who initiated suit, Dutch is just countersuing.
Mm-hmm.
I think ARA thinks they have a case here. No, maybe that's not true. It could be ARA sees that this is an ideal time to try and strike because they don't think Dutch can survive this whole legal process at this particular junction because they have no money coming in. And it was before the Zytec models were ready to come out. So, and some people have speculated this. I could see that angle. The way all the pieces are, I don't know. I mean, the biggest negative I know of with the ARA thing is ARA claimed that a certain date when the games weren't being built anymore, and people know that the games were still being built back then. So some people cite that as that ARA lied. I don't know if ARA quote unquote lied or the person they spoke to was just confused. But we know Dutch lied. They've admitted they lied.
Yes,
which doesn't help. It doesn't help the trust thing and they've been so quiet on the community. A lot of people think that the only reason we know about this right now is because of the Heighway thing. And people were saying, where's a new newsletter from Dutch? They haven't said anything in over a month.
Yep.
So
I still wonder where whatever money that they have left has come from.
Well, I've assumed it's just the account that they've been sitting on.
Whatever's left out of that.
Well, and see, part of the thing is no one's really entirely sure what ARA was and was not paid for. Obviously not the machines that they're still sitting on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think ARA wasn't paid for the first batch they sent out.
I think that's true too.
And that could be the ARA angle here was even setting aside that we tried to raise the price on you 2 times. You didn't even pay us the original price.
Yeah.
So all the money they've got, it's just been going down as they drew salary. They may not still be drawing salary. I don't know. No one knows what's going on with the money. But Dutch has been, and we'll assume they were honest on this, they have claimed they do not have the money available to build out all of the games for all the early achievers. Their entire solution is modeled on the idea that they will be able to sell like how Pinball Brothers controlling Heighway was. We will sell new units and then I guess mix in old units while they go along and do it like that. Cause that worked so well for Alien. Except Big Lebowski's a $10,000 game now, which it's not worth.
Nope.
So
I don't see how you even think that is how you could possibly make that work. I mean, there's just, we need to sell more to get the money to make the ones we already owe you guys. Why would anybody give you money? Why would anybody give somebody money? Oh, if I give you money, you'll give me my stuff, and eventually you'll have enough extra money that you can give stuff to the people who've already given you a whole bunch of money and gotten nothing. Wow, this sounds like a really good idea.
Well, this stuff always gets really interesting because you see the rationalization process that happens, especially with people who already have money in. So if you look on the threads, you look in the discussion groups, and you have people going, well, if Dutch had just come forward and said, and I've seen it up to $2,000 now, and said, we need another $2,000 from all of you, and then we'd be able to give everyone your games, I'm sure we could get all 300 people to agree.
Why? Why would you do that? Dude, are these the same type of people who go out and play Russian roulette with a semi-automatic?
$2,000 more is better than losing $8,500 for nothing. You see,
it's much better to lose $10,500 for nothing.
They're optimists, Tony.
They're
like Bruce. They're optimists.
No, the best thing is when they came out and said, "Oh, we don't have enough money to pay everyone back, so we will pay nobody back."
Oh yes, yeah.
That was my favorite line of the whole first video chat, and I just sat there like, I have to rewind this and listen again, and I have to rewind this again and go, what? Oh my god! Because
when it fell apart with ARA and everything like that, instead of doing this, because you know what they're building a little pyramid model. Everyone's favorite shape in business. We'll do a pyramid. We're gonna build a little pyramid and get new buyers to be the top, and they'll get their games first. Because that went over really well with the Alien purchasers, as people are just like, oh, I've just all of a sudden decided I wanted an Alien machine. Oh, look, I got it within a month. And then these other people have been in for years. Plus, you get these situations where you divide the community, you divide the hobbyists, because there are some that end up having to just, because they don't have what they want, they're obligated to root for Dutch Pinball's every decision. well, we have to try. When are they going to start marketing in Europe? We have to help them. We have to help them sell more of these games so that we can get our games. So you end up trying to support a model, which if you didn't have money in on it, you'd never have supported this idea.
Right.
But you're so desperate to get yours that you're willing to encourage bad practices. Now, I don't think Dutch is listening to anyone, so it doesn't really matter whether you encourage it or not, but.
Yeah. Well, when the U.S. guy backed out a year and a half ago, or 2
Jeff.
years ago and started, that was the true blue red flag. Stop, everyone. Don't do this. And I knew people afterwards that gave him money.
But some people stayed out after that.
Yep. Oh, a lot of people. But some people went in afterwards. But, people just, they spend their money with their hearts and then they get heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And then they try to
burn.
And then they try and get other people to bail them out.
Yes.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
Well, last news item I had for us to go ahead and move into is on the growth of pinball. Why is that a news item? It's not. No, it is because I had to do with it. So we have to talk about it at least a little bit. All right. So this week in pinball, they ran an article this last week that I wrote, which explored the evidence available to see if pinball hobby has indeed been growing. Which is, it's sort of, I guess in some ways people are like, that's sort of an odd question. Isn't it obvious? Like, well, I suppose we all think it is, but Jeff actually asked me if I would do something that would be evidence based to sort of prove it. So I tried to do that, but it's so hard now because none of the big manufacturers let us know their numbers anymore.
Yep.
So it's very frustrating. So what I did is and I have a link in the show notes if anyone wants to read it. It's not nearly as dry as most of what it's not as dry as the stuff I post on Pinside. I promise. There are only like 4 graphs and 2 tables. But I examined competitive pinball play, which Josh Sharp at IFPA got me. That's really useful data because the measurements are very consistent. Mm-hmm. And then multi-year data that I pulled off of Pinside regarding self-declared ownership. So my results say, yes, the hobby has been growing. There are more games from modern years. And by modern, I mean in the last 5 years owned versus the last 6 to 10 years, which I think we'll talk about that. And then the other thing on the competitive side was competitive pinball growth, at least amongst IFPA sanctioned events, is massive. It's like double digit, other than one number on 1 year, which was still almost a 5% growth. It has been double digit growth for like the last 8 years. It's just, and percentage double digit. So, I mean, you guys agree? Is pinball as a hobby? I couldn't measure other things like number of, I didn't have a good way to be able to figure out like the number of shows and the number of attendees at shows. That would have been a good way to measure.
Yeah.
Obviously the number of locations. I reached out to Pinball Map and such, but they don't really keep multi-year data. And Pinside, I asked for that, but I don't think they keep track of it in terms of how much was in there in 2008 versus now. But what are overall thoughts? Are we all in agreement that pinball has been growing, especially over the last 5 years?
Yes, easily. With the shows that we have local to us, which is Allentown, the York Show, and Pintastic, the 3 bigger shows in the Northeast. Each one has grown exponentially. Boy, Allentown's filled up. Originally, it was in the small side of Allentown's event center, and now we're on both sides, and we were actually busting at the seams this year. So it's growing. A lot more people are going to it. I know Ivan, who runs the Allentown show, and he says every year numbers are up, and he wouldn't be doing it if numbers were going down. So.
Nice. Okay, good. It's good to have some anecdotal examples on the show side. And we've seen from Texas, which Tony and I have gone to for the last 3 years, that growth, the interest in that. You know, everyone says now, everyone except maybe the people competing to do Pinball Expo, that TPF is the new expo at this stage.
It is.
And I see why, just given the number of industry folks that they get.
Yeah.
And the number of announcements that, if not done at TPF, seem to be revolving around that springtime period, that kind of late winter, February through April. People try and push out their announcement, either do so or tried to until something made them back out. Chicago gaming. Yeah. Who knows on that? It's interesting. So it's, obviously, the manufacturer thing. I didn't want to measure the number of manufacturers involved because game quantity is far more useful. I figure of a metric because if you start measuring quote unquote manufacturers, you end up counting things like, all right, well, Deeproot Pinball's in existence, but they haven't released anything, so you shouldn't count them. You end up counting Big Lebowski, and they pushed out 50 units. I mean, the fact that it's only 50 units over a multi-year company is the interesting thing, not that it's a one whole company that came on the board in 2012, 2013.
Another metric you can use is actually the cost of used machinery.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that trend line. That's why we have to rely on, would you buy that or won't you? So that I know.
It's just getting ridiculous. It really is. I'll make everyone feel a little weird, but back in the early 2000s, I was picking up, World Cup Soccers for $300 to $400. This is the Williams World Cup Soccers, I bought 3 for $900.
Wow.
So, and No Fears for $800 and $700, and Doctor Who's for $700, $800, and people didn't want these games. These were the bees.
They were bad.
They were bad.
These were bad.
Yes, and
that's
now,
like Shadow.
Oh my God. I know, exactly. Nobody wanted a Shadow. I remember when I paid for my first Shadow. I paid $1,100 for my first Shadow. Now, think about it. You can't get one for $25.
You can't get a ready to play System 11 for $1,100.
Got it.
Well, maybe Millionaire, but
who wants that?
I don't know. Someone trying to finally get the 30th game to compete with New Zealand. I gotta have the whole set.
Mr. Peck is a hard person to compete against.
I do have a question I want to pose. I was going to do this in the intro, but I'm going to actually ask it now. And I was just thinking, especially given your long history with the hobby, and you've done so many different things, Bruce, in it. Is there any sort of common pinball thing that you've actually never done? Maybe you want. I'll give you an example for me.
Okay.
Here's a really common thing. I have never ever played a dollar game.
Oh my God. Done that. I'm trying to think.
I've played all sorts of competitive pinball. I've played just pickup games with people. Never actually bet $1 on a game result ever.
Oh God. I don't even know what I can say to that.
I know. You need to think something that scrubby.
I've driven halfway across the country for a pinball machine. I have pinball machines shipped to me. God.
But have you ever said 5 minutes? Like, did you ever have an instance where it was like, well, that game's 5 minutes away and free, and I'm not going to get it?
No.
That'd be a good example.
Never.
You're not making this easy for me.
Honestly, my wife will tell you when it comes to pinball. I built the elevator in my own house to move pinball machines up and down. What does that tell you?
That sounds like perfection to me.
Yeah, as poor Tony there doing almost 100 hours on his games. To me, pinball is truly everything for me, and we'll prove in a few minutes. Hopefully, my addiction goes a little farther than most people's.
Yes. Okay. Well, so you've done everything common, Tony.
Yes.
Anything?
2 machines at one time.
Actually, though, I know the one for Tony, especially amongst pinball podcasting people, is you might be the only person who does a pinball oriented podcast that has never owned a single.
Yep, I've never owned a single pen.
Yeah.
I will someday.
I know a few people that just have one that do this stuff, and they mostly talk location and stuff because you don't need to own to do it. It's just most people end up with one somewhere.
Yeah. No, if I got a chance, I'd own one. I'm not against owning one.
But if Nick from the Roanoke Pinball Museum would quit coming down here and stealing out on auction those Campus Queens from you, we probably already have it. No, we're blaming Nick. We're blaming Nick.
That works.
Oh, Nick, why'd you do it to him? His heart has been in a million pieces, and I don't have enough super glue to fix it.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So, Bruce, let's move into your insanity. I'm going to go to our new segment for this episode. I'm calling it the Silverball Saloon.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, so you, as you mentioned in the intro, you've kicked off this new venture where you're not just operating pins, and I don't just mean a few. You're operating a number of pins at your own venue, which is a bar, but I mean, to me, I almost use the term pub because you also serve quite a bit of food.
Yes, we do. It's a 3,700 square foot building. It is a multi-layer building, so it's almost like a bi-level house. So when downstairs is our storage, office, and cooler, and then you go up 4 stairs, out of the basement, and you go into the pool table area, bowling. We have a 1962 ball bowler from Chicago Coin, dart room, and foosball with our bathrooms. Then you go up 4 more stairs, and you have the bar area. And adjacent to the bar area is our restaurant and kitchen. And behind the restaurant area, where you'd see, we also have an outdoor patio area. And then up 4 more stairs is the pinball area, where originally when we first moved in, I thought I was going to have 13 pinball machines, and now I'm at 25. Yeah.
Okay, so my first question is, have you installed an elevator here?
No. So it's all manual.
Okay. Well, the ADA code will probably want to have a word with you, but
yeah, but I do have ramps. I do have ramps going into
ramps
the building,
and must make it much easier for you to get the pins around. Because
yes,
how often do you change up the lineup?
I've actually taken out 3 pins, and since we've opened, I've brought in 9. So. Yeah.
And a lot of that was that growth from the Target 13 sort of thing. So as you've just shuffled things around more and more.
I have. And I have a couple people's pins who are not my own, but they have their own businesses, so they actually are legit too. And we have one of our local operators has 4 pins in here. Plus he does the jukebox, the ATM, a couple of video games, which we have also in the building, and he does our dart machine and our pool table. So I give him a taste to keep him happy, because he's a great supplier for my other stuff, which I don't have.
Yeah, I'd hate for something to happen to your ramps. I want you to just give me a taste. Just give me. I just want to wet my beak.
He's really, honestly, I've known him before I went into this venture, so it was only logical to go with him.
We're family. It's only
family, man. We're brothers, man. But my wife was always wanting to own a bar, so we were looking for that originally. And then I said, "Well, I can put the pinball machines in there." And we almost bought a place about 1.5 years ago, and it fell through. So then we started looking at another area. And the good thing about where we're located now is right across the street is free municipal parking. There's 110 spots right across the street.
Okay. Wow.
So nice.
That is a big plus, because you don't have to park at a parking garage in the town or anything like that, or limited parking. Right across the street, it's a town. So that was one of the biggest perks for us. We're on the east side of Rochester with our name, East Rochester. The municipality has about 16,000 people living in it, but we are in excess of 100,000 people within 15 miles. So
okay, good. Okay, so quite a sizable population to pull from.
Yes. Plus, we also have the Museum of Play, which is in Rochester, which I didn't know if you guys even know about. You guys should know about it, because it has everything, including gaming and pinball and video games.
Is that the location that houses the historical records from? Was it Atari?
They have a lot of stuff. They have stuff from Williams, Atari.
I've never been.
It was actually Videotopia. Yeah. They actually got all the video games from Videotopia back in the 90s.
Okay. Yeah, there was. I've definitely heard of it. I've never been myself, but I was doing another research project once, and I needed the historical business records, and wherever it was, I was like, I'm not flying out there for this. No one's paying me for this article. We have to have some limit.
Well, luckily, I know the person that's one of the people inside internally. So if you ever need anything, I can hook you up with that person.
Okay, awesome.
Nice. Yes.
So what's your pricing range on your games?
From 50 cents to $1.
Okay.
50 cents is for all of our solid state, which is 79 through 85. 75 cents is most of our DMDs from 90 to 2007, 2009, and then the higher prices are I have an LE Star Trek up here. I have a premium AC/DC. I have a premium Metallica. I have a brand new Pro Iron Maiden here. So those are the dollars. We're trying to recoup some of the money from them. The bowling's 50 cents. The dart machine is $1.25 or $1, and the pool table is $1.25, which is average in this area.
Now, why is the Iron Maiden a Pro? Because Ryan from Head to Head Pinball told me that those are called peasant models.
Because they are the least amount to break. That's what I look at it. And it's the first one you can get out, so you want to get when the metal's hot, and it's a great game. I love the game.
Although we've got one up at the KCK location we have 403 Club, and the reviews and that's where most of the hardcore players go to play. That's like their home base, and the reviews are all very positive for Iron Maiden.
Yes,
as you would expect for it being designed by the one, as you call him.
As exactly the one.
The one.
So my wife wanted a bar. I wanted a pinball. We merged it together. In the beginning, my wife was running the bar, and I was working and doing the pinball on the side. And then about 3 months ago, I snapped at my work. I actually snapped. I said, F this, I quit. So my wife got her old job back. She actually is now working back at her old company, and I am now taking care of the bar and everything else.
Oh, it's a topsy-turvy, flipsy world here.
Yes. So unfortunately, I get to the bar like today. I got to the bar at 1. We open at 3 today, and my bartender will be in another. He actually should be here in the next 5 minutes, and he'll start setting up everything, and we'll go till 12 o'clock tonight, midnight. And on the weekdays, last night I didn't get out of here till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got here at 1 o'clock.
Gosh.
So it's a full-time gig, and keeping the machines. Now, I don't know if you've heard from me. I'm pretty anal when it comes to my machines, and
you seem to have a fairly high standard.
I do, and I unfortunately I probably keep other people's machines. I want that same high standard, and it's probably bad on my case to keep people at that standard. But for me, I want people when they come to my place and play pinball, I want them to say 3 things. I want to go back. Number 1. That's the biggest thing. You want people to come back, and you want to have a good bar so people will come back. Pinball is just a part of it. You want people to enjoy themselves, have a good time with the food and with the bar and everything else. 2, when they play my pinball machines, I want them to say, wow, these are some of the best maintained and best, and if they do have an issue for number 3, I want them to come to me, and I will A, try to fix it right then and there, and B, make sure they are happy. That is my 3 goals when it comes to pinball.
And you think that's been working so far?
I think so. We do have another barcade in the area, and they are big. They actually have less pinballs, but they have a ton more video games. And I think the pinball players are coming here. I think because they know me. I've been doing it so long and been entrenched in the area so long, it helps. But I think even regular players and people come here just to have fun. That's the biggest goal. Anyone can drink anywhere. I want them to drink and have fun.
Yeah.
So given you've been at it for a while now, for a few months, what would you say, just roughly speaking, let's talk some percent. Let's talk numbers. I'm sort of a numbers person.
I know you are. And so am I.
It's my only passion is numbers. It's the only way I can feel anything. So, what would you say in terms of just gross revenue or income? What's the sort of split? Like how much is coming from the pinball side or maybe just the entire gaming side versus the food and the drinks?
Oh, it's 20%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That is an easy number to put because I know I'm like you with numbers. If I look at my computer right now, between me and my wife is an accountant. So what does that tell you right off the bat?
Oh, yeah.
I have to live with an accountant. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, there's spreadsheets all throughout my computer. And then we have a great POS system that shoots out so much data that sometimes I even get a little like, whoa, wait a sec, hold on. And we can actually break it down how much drinks we sell in a night and what we're doing. So we really want to make sure we're keeping track of our inventory. I am the inventory guru when it comes to this place. My wife says she's good with numbers. She even says, like, you can do the inventory so much better. I'm glad you can do it. I'm glad you took over. This is perfect. Thank you very much. I love my wife. She's like, but with our numbers, it is the percentage does help. It does. The pinball machine. Right. And I do make more because I own more of the games. So there is no split.
Right.
I don't know if people know that there is a split when you usually have another person involved with your games. Usually it's a 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40. I've even heard some that are 75-25. But, with me, since I'm getting truly 100% of the intake on certain ones of my machines, I have to pay for all of my repairs, but I can do most of my repairs. So it's not a hard thing.
So in terms of the pinball games, what type of games seem to perform the best?
New. Totally. Okay. Totally new. Williams are, even honestly, Stern new are killing it. Then older Sterns are better, and then you get to Williams are second. They really are. We'll see next week. Next week I'm going to be having an Addams Family coming in, so we'll be up to number 26 upstairs. So we'll see how that goes. People have been asking for Addams Family, and one of my buddies finally got one, so I'll bring that in. And but the older one, it all depends on the clientele coming in. Some people come in and see a 50-cent game, and they rather play two 50-cent games than $1 game because I feel like they have more time,
right?
And they play more. But certain players, of course, are coming in and going, I want to play the newest game, or I want to play the flashiest game, or I want to play the game that the title interests me, like Metallica. My Monopoly is my number 5 game here.
Really?
The reason why? Everyone knows Monopoly.
That's true.
They don't care what the gameplay or anything like that. They see Monopoly.
So the vast volume of people dropping quarters into your games are what we would describe as casual players.
It's actually a 60-40 split between my regulars, and then the casual is 40% easily.
Okay.
On the weekends, more casual players come out. During the week, my regulars are my rock and my bread and butter.
So basically, modern Sterns are sort of at the top, and then the Stern Electronics, and then the Williams.
No, the Stern Electronics are the lowest.
Okay, I wanted to explore that a little bit because I know when I saw your list of what games you have on location, that's sort of the you probably got a number of stuff that's unique for your area, but just in terms of what I'm used to seeing versus what I'm not used to seeing, I don't tend to see a lot of locations that are willing to operate Stern Electronics.
They are so easy, it's not even funny. They are actually the easiest games to work on. Stern early and Bally early, the board sets are they're all interchangeable except for the soundboards. So if I have an All-Tech board, I can, if I have a problem, I can pull out a new All-Tech board, flip the dip switches, put it on the CPU, and see if I can get it back up and running ASAP. Can't do that with the newer Sterns. Can't do even, some of the Bally's I can. It depends on what, version you have, with the Williams Bally, from the 90s. With the old Bally's, I'd rather have, if I knew they can make more money, I'd have more of them in here.
Yeah, in our case, I think it's been more that they're just not possessed, that they just don't have any Stern Electric. Yeah. One of our operators did actually for a while at least, he had a Stargazer, so he did put it out on location, and he did that for the tournament, and hardcore fans. Yeah. And afterwards it went, and he said, he warned everyone that once it was gone, it wasn't going to go back out on location again. And I asked him afterwards, and he goes, it did not make money. It makes
okay. But honestly, if I can get 4 more newer ones, I would slowly wean them out.
But in his experience, the Addams Family, I think, tends to be his on average most consistent earner. Where when he's put it he services a couple locations, and Adams is back, and it's currently at a pizza place, which has tournaments at it. But I know he'll get it moved back over to a pub where they don't do the regular competitive tournaments, but everyone knows Adams. And so with that adult clientele, it consistently just tends to be his highest performing game from week to week, number 1 or number 2, depending if you got a new game in or not. Yep. So, all right.
I know my top 5. My top 5 are very easy to go over.
What are they?
Number 1 right now this month is Iron Maiden, crushing them. Number 2, Star Trek LE. Number 3, Metallica Premium. Number 4, Medieval Madness. Number 5, Monopoly. Top 5.
Other than the Monopoly,
it
all makes sense.
I get it, but it's still it's
just
interesting
weird
to me.
It is, and my Monopoly is one of the rare ones. So that's even everyone laughs at me like, "Oh, you got LEs in here," and I'm like, "They're meant to be played."
That's right. You don't. It's not. But what about the Wild Under Glass?
Burn it. It's making me money.
My Wild is on fire. Rosebud. I'm mixing all my movie metaphors.
Yeah, I know, but we're here to make money, and guess what? That's what they were originally meant for, and they still are. Every game is meant here to make money.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and hop over to our game now, that we've been playing, our tournament of champions here. Tony's brainchild of negativity, the worst of the fall.
Love it.
Oh God. You and everyone else. So there's like, when we did that vote, figure out go negative or not. I don't think I've ever lost any poll so bad on this podcast. It's like, no, Dennis, no, we don't want to hear
People
nice.
don't want your happy and your light. They want the darkness. They want to know who to blame.
Yep.
Who's it for?
Well, I understand because pinball is at least 50% hate.
Yes, it
I'd
is.
say it's probably more than that.
That's right. The glass is half full of hate and half full of air. Light, fluffy air. So what were the results from round 4, Tony?
All right. Round 4's results.
And a reminder that whatever has won was seen as the worst game. For anyone who doesn't know how this works, it's very simple.
Popeye Saves the Earth beat Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street. Not really surprised. It's close. These are all pretty close.
Do you agree with that, Bruce? Do you think Popeye's
totally.
worse than Freddy? Okay.
Totally.
I agreed as well.
Yeah, this was 54%.
So it's pretty close.
Shack Attack beat Barbed Wire barely. It was 51%.
I agree with that one.
Okay.
Lost in Space beat Space Jam, 54%.
Totally agree with that one.
I agree with that one.
Yeah,
too.
definitely. And Viper Night Driving beat World Challenge Soccer. That was the biggest gap, and that was still only 66, almost 67%.
Yeah, that one I don't agree with.
I've not played World Challenge, so
It's that
I was
bad.
I was
at least
surprised.
with Viper, you can actually hit shots. World Cup is bad. World Challenge, World Challenge, it's bad.
No, that's on my wish list. People out there, help me. I want to actually try this game. I want to see how bad it is. And I need
find
to find
an NFL. Any NFL one, you'll get the full feeling of it too.
I thought NFL. That's Striker Extreme. NFL and Striker Extreme.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. World Cup.
World Challenge Soccer is the car hop layout with a ramp.
Yeah, terrible too.
No. You changed your mind now because you were thinking of the wrong game.
It's all terrible.
Yeah, it was. It's still terrible.
Okay. They're all. I'm just making. I'm writing on my notepad here. All bad.
Yes.
Dennis, dumb.
Turd
with a capital D for its grade. All right. So what? So we're down to the final 4.
We're down to
only
the final
2 matchups.
4.
All right. What do we got?
We got Popeye Saves the Earth is going up against Shack Attack.
Okay, Bruce. Which one of these is worse?
Shack Attack.
That's where I've been leaning as well. I can't remember ever playing one. I've gone and I've watched some footage now, so I'm not total ignoramus on this. I'm like, the basket looks kind of neat, but that's about all. But I hate Popeye so much.
It has deeper rules than Popeye. But the one saving grace for Popeye, if I ever got a Popeye and a Shack Attack, I can take the boards out of the Popeye and use them in something else. I cannot do that with a Shack Attack. I just have to burn the cabinet and just let it melt.
But no, can't you use your Shack Attack boards to fix up your Mario Andretti?
Oh, God, I wouldn't want to do that in anybody's case.
Okay. Tony, what's your thought between these two?
I'm probably going to agree
on Shack Attack.
On Shack Attack, just basically because, like you, I haven't played it, but I've watched some video and this and that. And while I don't have your deep set hatred of Popeye
helped ruin Williams. My hate is well founded. It's based on science. My hate is not. This is not irrational. This is truth backed by knowledge. Popeye did so much damage to that. I don't think it sunk Williams. It did them no favors. It only made them look bad.
It shut down a couple pumps.
It was like there was a time probably when they did that, they were probably thinking maybe we should acquire Premiere and rename ourselves Premiere. They probably were thinking the same thing and then instead decided just to put out Popeye.
I think Popeye killed the wide body too.
I don't regret that byproduct.
I know you don't like the wide bodies.
It's just geometrically inferior, but you understand. You understand. You don't want to admit it, but you understand.
No, a lot of wide bodies.
That's why you like Gamatron more than Flight 2000. That wide body just makes it. What's the worst thing about Flight 2000? That wide body. Terrible.
No, because actually you have sounds in Flight 2000 of the speech, instead in Gamatron you don't. So there is a give and take on each side.
That's true, but nothing about the body size means that Gamatron couldn't have had speech. They just chose to laze out on that.
Yeah, cheapness.
Yep.
But I still like wide bodies. Wide bodies are very much fun.
That's okay. We all make mistakes, Bruce. We all make mistakes. What's our second matchup?
The second matchup is Lost in Space and Viper Night Driving.
I know mine.
Okay, well, I'll lead off here. I
hate them both.
I do. I really don't enjoy playing either of them. Lost in Space is so, they're both boring. I mean, that's the thing. I think they're both boring. I think they both play really easy. They're both Segas. I'll vote Viper. It's more offensive. That's going to be mine. What's your stance, Tony?
I'm going with Lost in Space.
Okay.
And I'm agreeing with Tony.
Okay.
Lost in Space is terrible.
I've only played it once or twice though, and I had to play Viper Night Driving quite a bit. We had it on location for a while and it was in tournament. And the thing is that makes me hesitate is, if it didn't have the stupid glow balls and stuff, the layout of Viper, it's not a terrible layout, but Lost in Space layout, I don't think it's terrible. It's just, both of them have not good rules.
No,
I don't know.
They follow the Premiere. Bad rule.
At least I have a few kind of goodish memories of Viper Night Driving because I was playing with friends and having a good time. And
you didn't play Lost in Space with any friends?
Yeah, but not enough to have good memories of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say I disagree with the pick of Lost in Space because the impression it left was not good.
Yeah.
But the one saving grace for Lost in Space is because they made a relatively few quantity of them. If you had both, you would be able to sell it for more than Viper.
Yeah, true. Was it 300? I think it's 300 to count.
Yeah, like 3 or 4. I think it's sparse. It's sparse. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right. Link in the show notes, folks. So go vote which turd reigns supreme. Yeah. That's a common slam tilt expression, turd.
It is.
I don't
totally is.
But since you're here, we'll poach a little bit from the platinum standard.
Yes. No. We are the brown standard.
What can brown do for you? Apparently lost in space, but all right. Final pinball segment that I had outlined here was a discussion on the value of code. As I internally subtitled it, can the past be reforged? So my idea for this was, since you're on here, Bruce, you have a well-known and established dislike of Gottlieb, at least as of the solid state era.
Mm-hmm.
So not even just Premiere or Milestar. Just basically, it's like they put in boards and honestly, I can't say you've said all that many positive things about EMs from Gottlieb either.
No, actually, some EMs are good. I like so many.
I know
actually,
you like a few, but you're not like they were the king of EM.
No.
What EM company do you favor, broadly speaking?
Ballon?
I
actually like the Williams. No, I actually like the Williams 4 players the best. Like Argosy, Grand Prix.
Grand Prix is great. Space Mission? Do you like Space Mission?
I actually do like Space Mission. Even though it's a bad game, it's still fun. It is a fun game.
There can be things that are fun that aren't good.
Yes.
Sure. Like World Challenge Soccer, which is not Striker Extreme.
I know, they're both bad. Turds.
I have only heard terrible things. I've never played Striker Extreme or NFL. I've only heard terrible things.
Person.
So, Now, when we're talking about Gottlieb in the solid state era, it sounds like most of the time the issue that you've pointed out, Bruce, is that it fundamentally comes down to bad rules.
Yes. And also mechanics.
Okay. So some of the mechs you don't like, the drop targets, for example, you don't like.
No, I actually don't like the flippers. Any ball I can trap on easily is a bad game for me.
Now, wouldn't then that just basically be System 3 then? Because they didn't go pointy flipper till then.
Yes, pointy flipper with the throw of the shaft being so long that I can trap anything. I can trap 4 balls at once and not have any problems. That's a bad design. I don't mind the slingshots, actually. The slingshots are good. The drop targets are pretty good.
What about the spinners?
The spinners are fine. I have no problem because you can go always to TX Sector as one of the best spinner games out there from the 80s. TX. So, going that way, they did have a lot of good things. Wiring, terrible. Using color codes for wiring, I know every other company does that, but it was not known for, for pinball companies doing that. So, terrible. So that's going behind the scenes deeper into it.
Okay, well, that's good. It's good. We need a good foundation so that we can build our house of code discussion.
But the rules are terrible.
Yes, and that's
Mysteries,
broadly speaking.
Terrible.
Broadly speaking, that's what I hear the most gripe about. And anyone who's ever done any sort of preliminary research on Gottlieb understands what their corporate decisions regarding parallel development and how they weren't allowed to. There are a lot of reasons why the code sucks.
Yes.
It doesn't make it good. It is what it is. You had a few that came out okay and a lot that did not. Now, the reason I wanted to bring that up is as we've also noted in this show before, and as you have stressed quite a bit on your show, you are obviously a big fan of Stern Electronics.
Yes. Older Sterns, yes.
Which ones do you not own? It's probably easier to say than all the ones you have, because you've got all the obscure stuff, it seems.
Yeah, all the 2-level games I do not have. So Split Second, Iron Maiden, the original. What else do you have? I don't have Catacomb. Hey, there you go. I have a new goal. I want a Catacomb, guys. See,
listeners, Bruce, because I don't want it. So Bruce needs a Catacomb.
There we go. I have the new Grail.
Reach out to Slamtail Podcast. He needs a Catacomb. If you know of an auction in Arkansas that has a Catacomb nailed to a wall somewhere, Bruce is your guy. It doesn't matter. He'll do that road trip. He'll do it.
People think I'm freaking nuts going 2,300 miles for a $23 game.
No, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. I like road trips.
Just make sure you keep the price you spend on gas off that spreadsheet so it doesn't look like you paid more for that game.
True, very true. But I have most of the Sterns. I have a Meteor. Some I don't have, like Galaxy, but most of the games, as Ron always has said, Ron Hallett from the podcast, Stern made everything so cheap. They made the spinners so much lighter, so they spin better, so it's more fun. And it's a great company. It was a great company until mismanagement got in the way, and they started getting cheaper and cheaper. They had a lot of great designers. They had a lot of good engineers that moved on to other companies afterwards. They had the right tools, but unfortunately, the 1983 arcade / drop off and buying Seaberg really killed that company.
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, it's interesting how many pinball companies have in their history a purchase of another company that ended up causing. I mean, actually, that was what happened with Premier.
Yep.
Their decision to try and get into the slot machine gambling business, except they couldn't get any licenses, and it sunk them. Their pinball division was profitable to the end. Yep. Even with their turd flippers.
Yep. Last year, even with Brooks and Dunn, they were actually they made money on barbed wire. They made money on everything.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't have made money on barbed wire.
Well, it was the 90s. We were more carefree then.
Yes.
Now, of the Stern Electronics games that you have, which ones do you run custom ROMs on?
Oh boy. Sea Witch does not. Stars does not. My Flight 2000. I'm sorry, not my Flight 2000. My 9-ball. Ron's testing one right now. Quicksilver. We have one that's custom. Stargazer, we have a custom. Big Game, we do not. And Meteor, we do not. So 3 or 4. And luckily we have the access of Scott Charles. That's the best thing of all. Scott C, as we like to call him.
Yes. Shout out to Scott C.
Yes.
The code master. The C is for code because he's the code master.
It's the code master.
The reason why I'm bringing that all up is that we have games from Stern Electronics that had issues in code, issues mostly with rules that Scott is able to go in and using his C power kind of fix, make them better, make them even better than they were.
All but one.
All but one. Which one?
9-ball. 9-ball has had, from Stern, they had 50 revisions of code.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what does that tell you?
Tells me they probably revised it 48 too many times.
Yeah, and now he's trying a different revision to help with it gets confused during multi-ball and with the multi-ball store.
Yeah.
So Ron's actually trying a new ROM version. We'll see what happens.
So that made me wonder is, what do you think? What do you think of? Are there Gottlieb games that if someone would code them, give them new code that could actually be turned from turd to triumph? That there are some with some good layouts. And I thought maybe we should talk, just because we've all played a number of these games, let's throw some out there. What's one, Bruce, that you think is I don't care if it's system 3 or ADB or 1 or whatever that you think, that if it just had new rules, it would actually could be an awesome game.
Surf and Safari. It's a staple. It is truly a staple at Papa and during, a lot of the tournaments for Pinburg and everything like that. And I think they do have a little revision of it, but the Mystery Award kills that game. Where, it's a low-scoring game, and, wait a sec, one of the Mystery Awards is 20 million points!
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem with Gottlieb scoring and Gottlieb rules. They give away too much free. It's almost like what Sega did back and even Williams did. Third ball, multi-ball. If you haven't gotten a multi-ball by now, we're going to get that shot lined up and you can get that third ball and get that multi-ball started. Williams fell into that also.
Yeah, that's one of the when I have one. I own one Premier. I have a Silver Slugger, and when I get asked about it, it's like, well, the one thing that I liked about it is I love the geometry. What I don't like about it is the multi-ball comes from a Mystery Award.
Yes.
Now, to me, it's more tolerable than a lot of their other games because the multi-ball scoring doesn't seem all the modes come out of the mystery hole and it doesn't seem lopsided like some of their other games were, but it's still frustrating. So that would be one I would nominate that I think that game could be to the next level if you just made it so that the mystery holes were ball locks. And you do something to activate them and then you just lock the ball and that would be better because it's not like the modes are really special. It's just like grand slam or home runs or whatnot. The rest of it though, it's really, really good flow game. So
well, if you go to street level, like you love the street levels and talked about it many times, Hoops.
I just think their history is really, Hoops.
Hoops has the best rules. They didn't bias it towards the mystery. They biased it towards shots and actually making the locks and the spinners. That game rocks.
And my understanding is the worst one of the street levels on the rules perspective, I think, is Deadly Weapon, which, just like Surf and Safari, has a mystery award, which you can't turn off, and it's just a massive amount of points.
Yep.
It's just an I win button.
Right. Well, I mean, like you compare with Silver Slugger, the most a mystery point award will ever give you is 1 million points, which it's decent points, but it's not like game breaking. You're all of a sudden going to win.
Right.
Whereas this, it's like Surf and Safari, maybe the same amount, maybe 20 million. Just like a ridiculous amount, and you can't even on novelty play, it doesn't go away.
Yeah,
so Papa has it on the list. Even if it's a casual tournament, do not play this game.
Yeah, totally agree.
Whereas half the street levels are in that list. Like the 3 that are not in the list of don't play because their scores are too lopsided, and the mystery are Silver Slugger, Hoops, and I think Car Hop. I think are the 3 that aren't. They're okay enough.
Vegas is pretty bad.
Vegas. Yeah, Vegas was on the no-no list.
Yeah.
And so was obviously Deadly Weapon. Deadly Weapon was on the worst of the don't do it list. Don't do it at all. And, I can't remember whatever the one that we didn't name is. That one's on their list too. Title Fight.
Title Fight. I was just
too easy to exploit that loop shot's too valuable.
Totally agree. Totally.
Tony, do you have have a game. And let's broaden it too. You don't have to name a Gottlieb. You can pick another more obscure company. If you want to say a Capcom game or Alvin G or Atari even, if you want to, but they're all wide bodies, so they'll never be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of torn on this one. Mainly because I'm not a good enough player where anything short of a major rules problem, like say, like we were talking about with the Mystery Awards, or like Bugs Bunny's the end of the game, we're just going to flip everybody's scores type stuff. That's the stuff that really, and the stuff like that's what really hits me the most. But I think that almost any of the games, especially the early solid state games, don't even need major revisions, but minor enough tweaks to make them a bit more matching to the current kind of play style and feel for a bunch of games would make them way, way more interesting to play on a repeated basis. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the weird scorings and the this and that, or even going so far as to allow, within whatever the machine will let you allow, obviously, changes to just the general targeting and goals of the game, I think would help. But I don't have a specific thing because I'm not hardcore enough into the rules. Half the games, the rules for me is that a flashing shot? I'll shoot that one.
Yeah.
Joker's another bad one.
Oh yeah, poor Jokers. Well, there's an auction going on today in Wichita, Kansas, and I saw they had a couple Jokers, and I was like, well, I guess if someone wants one, they'll be able to get one.
Yeah.
But Gladiators, that would be one I'd name from Gottlieb, which just got that terrible scoring exploit. We played it at TPF.
Yeah, it's
I think the layout's pretty clever.
I enjoyed that game.
But it's way too easy to trap up top. And that would be fine if the rules were changed so that you didn't have an incentive to just stay and live up there.
You got it.
But you don't.
I did enjoy playing that game, but yeah, no, that one could use a little bit of fine tuning.
TLC.
Yeah.
Bruce, could Black Hole be saved with new rules?
Yes, easily.
Just the lower playfield punishment?
The lower playfield punishment. Yeah. Honestly, that would actually make it, as Zach would say, that would make the game worse. I would say it'd make a game better. Does it matter right now for that game? Who knows?
So when is Black Hole going to the Silverball Saloon?
Never, because it will be a Gottlieb 80 system. Oh, never in my place. No, just no.
Are you sure people they'll drop in the 50 cents and it'll be over in 30 seconds? And
and then
you'll be rolling in it. Do you pour out all the quarters on the floor and just roll in it like
I do? You've been watching the cameras at the bar, haven't you?
Yeah, I love your security cams. I love the default IP addresses you stuck with.
I swim in them. I do the old Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, that's right.
Granted, then you have to go to the hospital and say, just give me all of the shots. I need all of the antibiotics.
Well, he's got the quarters to pay for it. So yeah, you gotta take some hepatitis risk for some.
You got it
for some monetary reward.
I got the heebies now. Where's the GBs?
Well, I thought the last thing to hit on would be actually in the video game section. So we will transition for all the people who need to turn us off now. But it's about the pinball arcade. So
if you do like pinball but don't normally listen to the video game segment, you can hold.
They might, but some people hate virtual pinball and they turn us off for that as well, which is fine, which is why we structure it this way. But I know Bruce and Ron talked about this, so Bruce at least knows what I'm going to say. And that is, this came out a little bit after our last episode, actually. And that is, Farsight came out and announced that they are losing the license to the Bally Williams table titles.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, this is massive for them because it's over 60 of a lineup of 90 some games. So so they're losing roughly 2/3 of their entire portfolio.
Especially the new ones they just made.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They just got done with Bonsai Run, for example.
And Sorcerer.
Yes. Now, Scientific Games is the company that they used to be Williams. So Scientific Games controls the license. They indicated they wanted to go in a different direction. Last I heard, and I have a link in the show notes to the Blockade podcast where they have an interview with the vice president of Farsight. Farsight at that time said they have no idea what that means. So Scientific Games has not explained But it wasn't an issue of Scientific Games saying, we want more money from you. It was, we're not letting you have the license anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
which that sounds kind of like you pissed us off.
And so that's some of the speculation. So I wondered, Tony, is that what one of the things I want to note is that and this was covered in the interview, when they did the release of the Pinball Arcade on Switch, there was a disagreement between Scientific Games and Farsight about whether the contract actually allowed for the Bally-Williams tables to be on Switch. So the game came offline and Farsight yielded to Scientific Games. And so now that it's back on Switch, Bally-Williams is not in the Switch version.
Mm-hmm.
So Tony, do you think that's what this is? That Scientific is like, you guys were in breach of contract. We don't trust you anymore and we're done with you.
It could be. It could be that they were looking to line something else up for Switch. And then when they kicked out on the Switch, it became an issue, possibly. But no, it seems like this was I don't want to say a fit of pique, but definitely seems a retaliatory type. Somebody was unhappy with somebody, issue. It doesn't sound like well, just give us more money or we want more or this is getting, it definitely sounds like no, we don't like you anymore.
Bruce, what do you think's going on here?
I think it's a total opposite. I think they want a piece of the pie more. They want the sales.
So do you think that they're planning to make their own game then rather than just try and up the license value?
They see Stern making money off of it. They gave away the license cheap. Now they want the bigger piece of the pie. Guess what? You want the whole 100% instead of the 80 or 70% or whatever percentage they were getting, maybe 20 or 30%, who knows? But they want the whole pie. It makes sense. They have so many people. And plus they want to protect their licenses also. They use a lot of their licensing for the slot machines and everything else, as we've all seen if you ever go to any one of these slot machine places.
Oh, yeah. Or if you even go to I went to Scientific Games website. They have the Bally and Williams logos prominently when you go to the gaming section.
Yep. So they want the money. I think it's all about money. And not getting it from somebody else, they want the full piece.
I think I kind of agree with both of you. I think it's fundamentally about money. That they're not willing to. Now, that Farsight annoyed them, I think is definitely true with the Switch thing, because with Farsight ultimately having to cave because Switch clearly was not spelled out in the contract. Yeah. They just thought however the language was inclusive of it, that was still going on under this contract. At the very least, I think it was telling that Scientific was in no way concerned with preserving a relationship with Farsight. So that writing was on the Farsight. That writing was on the wall there, and we're going to touch on that too. What I'm not sure of is whether Scientific Games is planning to. I believe they've done some stuff in mobile gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they're actually planning to, which would give them 100% of the money, make their own pinball game, or if they're in talks with someone else that they think maybe has a better physics model and are actually just going to enter into a new contract, which is probably more generous to them than the contract with Farsight was. Like going to Zen Studios the physics on, it seemed like every time I'm not going to comment specifically on the physics actually, but it seemed to me that Farsight was running into a lot of problems as they kept adding more tables, like Bonsai Run in particular, where it would break older tables. Mm-hmm. That's a really weird problem to have. It makes you look kind of amateurish. Yep. And I think which it may still be in Project Greenlight or whatever it's called, early access on Steam, but the Zaccaria game, I think, plays and runs better than Farsight's game does.
Yeah.
And Zen just put out Pinball FX3. I don't know though whether, I guess I kind of lean towards Bruce's thought that they probably just do it on their own rather than contract with another company, but there are some other virtual pinball players that have engines that might be better than sticking with Farsight.
Let me bring up another point. Back in the late 90s, Williams and Microsoft put together a 4-game package, which was Tales of Arabian Nights, Black Rose, Creature from Black Lagoon, and I forget what the fourth one was. And the physics on that were incredible.
I've never played that.
It's very rare, but if you go on eBay, you can find it once in a while. Unfortunately, you need, it's really old software to run on. but the physics were almost perfect. And that's why when I go to play these newer ones, I still go back to the 90s saying 90s had better physics and no, they don't. And it really confuses me. It really just makes my mind boggle. The only thing I use Pinball Arcade for is just looking at rules real fast. I don't play it. I own maybe 7 or 8 titles. To me, it's not a, oh my God, loss. It's just a, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And I only ever bought, I have it on Xbox. I have the first 2 seasons on Xbox when they were on sale. And then since then, I've been only buying on Steam for my PC, and I only buy when half off. And Farsight's announced that their contract does not allow them to put these on sale at this point. Yeah. So I guess I won't be getting the last 2 season packs because I only buy packs on sale because I don't like it enough to want to pay full price.
I've got the tables I want. So.
Yeah, yeah. And the first 2 seasons had all the great tables.
Yeah.
That's part of the issue. Now, you, Tony, mentioned about how this is going to break Farsight. Go ahead and elaborate on that. So what do you think's happening? Because Farsight's official position is, we have a great relationship with the Gottlieb license. We're going to keep doing that. And we're going to move over all the Stern pinball things from the Stern Pinball Arcade. They're all going to be in Pinball Arcade as well. And we might even go and do something like Capcom.
Yeah. And nobody will care.
Because all the
games people want to play are going away. And if they and if Scientific Games comes back or somebody else comes back with all of these games, even if it's an almost identical physics engine, even if it's not something better, that's not what anybody's going to want to play. Those aren't the games everybody wants. I have not played the new Stern Pinball, but from everything I've heard, it's not very great. There's been some issues with it, but you have 90 games-ish, and you're losing 60 of them, and they're the ones everyone wants to play, and they're the games that are the only reason anybody wanted your system and wanted your game in the first place. They wanted your emulator in the first place was to play these games because those are the ones that are fun and hard to find in the wild. I don't see how it doesn't just tank their sales. They might get a sales spike here at the end as everybody who hasn't gotten around to it are all like, oh, I have to get all the tables. I have to get all the tables. I have to get all the tables. But their sales after this are going to go through the floor. And they're never, they can release the season all they want, but it's not going to have the kind of sales the older seasons did because it's like, oh no, I get to have never mind. I mean, no one cares.
Bruce, do you agree with Tony, or do you
totally,
think that Airborne and Barbed Wire are going to come out and they're going to save this?
Yeah.
No. The only thing that could save them is if they actually get a little smarter and get the older Sterns and the older Gottliebs and that kind of stuff also. That would actually help them a little bit because then no one's thought going that old.
Yeah, I agree with, overall I agree with Tony. I think that this, just because so much will be out of the app, they're indicating they're going to reshuffle what season packs will have what games and stuff for selling things going forward. The one thing for them is I don't know how many like new buyers are coming out and getting a game that came out in 2012 or so at this point anyway.
Right.
It's the issue is they already dropped doing a table a month. That used to be their thing. They always put out a table a month. And now they're past that. They'd already announced that was phasing out. I don't know how long this was in discussion about losing the license. The Blockade podcast people indicated that they're under NDA with Farsight and they knew about it before they did that interview. So it's been known for a while. So it's like, okay, well, I don't know how much longer I agree. I just don't see the app being really viable to develop for when you've lost the king of the 90s for any new people coming in. It's not Teed Off and Cue Ball Wizard are just not going to seduce enough people. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Rowdy Ramp Round.
Rowdy Ramp Round. Quit talking and start chalking. I guess you could still have that one in that. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, they've indicated they're working on some other stuff. I don't know if it's pinball stuff or not, but yeah, long-term viability, unless they get creative and if they go real old, I mean, I guess they could do a couple packs of Stern Electronics games. You could do the Atari pack to have just 7 terrible playing games. There's stuff they could do in that realm, but I just
$50 you can get 7 Atari games.
Yeah, and the pricing. What I don't know how much but the pricing, as you stated, you only bought it on sale. That's when I only bought it on sale. It's like over $300 to buy all 8 packs at full price. Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
Yeah, and they didn't play right.
No.
If they played perfect, I didn't think about it.
No, it's very So I think Farsight is going to be in a lot of trouble here. The whole thing with the table pack, they've always been pretty shoestring. I mean, look at how many Kickstarters they had to run.
Yeah.
Which every single Kickstarter game is in this list that they worked on.
Yeah, I know. Which really,
Adam's Family, T2.
Yep. TZ.
It's like, okay, well, thanks a lot. Yet another reason why I don't do Kickstarters. Here you go. Take it all away.
Ta-da.
Yay.
No, but then the people argue, well, no, you're still going to be able to keep them. You just can't buy them new.
Right. But the one thing what I really liked about Farsight was that some people would find that app, get the free Tales from the Arabian Nights or whatever. It doesn't really matter what game. And then maybe get a few more and they're like, oh, wait, they find out, oh, these are real machines. I can I can go online and look on a pinball map or whatever and say, oh, wow, holy crap. There's an Addams Family nearby. I can actually play a real one and go out and actually get people into playing pinball. That's what I liked.
It might even hurt pinball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So
I hadn't thought about that.
So, that's the stuff that kind of worry about. But long term, if Scientific Games does put out a different product directly or under contract or whatnot, that concern gets alleviated, especially if it's a better playing product.
Exactly.
Well, that's everything I have for the entire show.
Wow.
Yeah, we made it.
Woohoo!
Bruce, I want to thank you for
you guys, I
slumming
love
it. We're the hashtag pewter standard. We might have a little bit of lead in us, so don't put us in your mouth. But
no, I'm looking forward to next year playing you guys. If we ever get nominated on the Twippies and everything like that, and against this and the Trash Talker, I can't wait to play you guys.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you handle losing well?
I don't, but maybe you do.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you've looked up my rank, you probably are feeling pretty confident. But I make up for it with this filthy mouth in person. Podcast. I'm highly professional.
Yeah, but, you'll hear about us with the Mrs. Penn.
Yes, Mrs. Penn. That's a fun podcast. She's got a lot of energy. But she won't be able to keep being the newcomer deer in the headlights. I don't know anything about this pinball stuff. As she keeps doing these episodes, she's going to learn everything. She's going to just become one of us. Filthy and false and fallen.
One of us.
Yeah.
One of us.
Well, I want to extend our congratulations for you on the Silverball Saloon and wish you all the best of luck with that venture continuing forward. It sounds like things are going well.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, I am.
And I guess we'll do our closing out here, and I'll just say anyone who wants to reach out to the show, you can email us eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com. We're also available on various social media platforms, namely facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast.
And we're on Twitter and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And until next time, I'll just say I'm Dennis.
I'm Tony.
And that was Bruce. So long, everyone.